We're reading chapter 4 of Strength for Parents of Missing Children by me, Marie White. Chapter 4, The Edge of Survival. How did we make it through those first tough weeks? I think Tom Hanks in Sleepless in Seattle said it best. I'm going to get out of bed every morning, breathe in and out all day long, and then after a while, I won't have to remind myself to get out of bed every morning and breathe in and out. If you're still in the beginning, let me assure you that it does get better and you won't have to make yourself get out of bed every morning. Faith does not eliminate questions, but faith knows where to take them. Elizabeth Elliot. For several months, I would get up, get dressed, eat, and mechanically complete the tasks of the day. Meanwhile, everything within me was screaming with anguish, and all I really wanted to do was hide under the covers and wake up when this was all over. But life doesn't work that way. Even if I could have stayed in bed all day, what would that have accomplished? It would only make me feel worse because I had wasted a day. The last thing that you and I need is to feel more pain. Some days I have to pray the moment I wake up, Lord, tell me again that it's going to be okay. Hold me in your arms like a little child and remind me that everything will be all right. Then during the day, I hear a song and take a deep breath. And my shoulders relax. Only then do I realize that my shoulders were up and I hadn't taken any deep breaths. There will be days when this isn't the first thing on your mind in the morning and the last thing on your mind at night. You will survive. You can make it, as many parents have before you. After all, abduction is not a new event. There were many people in the Bible who were abducted and sold into slavery or taken captive. Even in their captivity, these people had powerful lives for God. Some abductions, like those mentioned in Isaiah 39, 5-7, were even foretold decades in advance. 4 very famous abductees were Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These teenagers were ripped from their families and taken to another country to serve the enemy king. They were put through a rigorous training program to rid them of their old identities. Instead, these boys became a light to others in the darkness. They stood for God and helped rule the country. Joseph was kidnapped by his brothers and sold into slavery, only to become the second in command over all of Egypt. A young girl was kidnapped to be a servant for the enemy commander. Instead of becoming bitter, she cared for her master and sent him to the prophet Elisha, where he was cured of leprosy. They each had a choice to make. It's the same one you and I face. Either we can emerge from this event warped, or we can come through it changed into something new. At the conclusion of The Lord of the Rings, Frodo has become so warped by carrying the One Ring and traveling the hard journey that he could not return to normal life. But his companion also carried the ring, took the same journey. Going through the journey taught Sam that life was short, and he used this new perspective to boldly pursue life. In the beginning of the journey, Frodo had started strong and his companion was weak. Frodo ends the journey broken. His companion finishes the journey strengthened. This illustrates the beauty of God's transforming power through adversity. He can use adversity to make the weak strong and the strong weak. The song Save My Life by Sidewalk Prophets talks about crying out to God, asking him to remind us that we are not alone. It begs God to tell us again that he has not forgotten us. Sometimes we feel completely alone, and we need him to tell us there is still hope even when we're suffocating in despair. We need to remember there are details we can't see. If our life was a movie, how many times did we have a near miss where God intervened in our behalf, and did we give him the credit? No, because we never knew. Priscilla Schreier says it like this: He can see more than we can see, and he can love us without needing to explain why his love needs to look like this at the moment. But is there still hope? Can God make some sort of good out of this? Do we have any concrete examples of God working behind the scenes? She could hide him no longer. The baby whom she had nursed and protected and kept hidden for 3 precious yet sleepless months was gone. Whatever was to become of him in his makeshift cradle boat, and she knew she would never lay eyes on him again. In that room, in all of Egypt, in the hearts of many, God was at work. It's tough to read while you cry. There she sat, a woman who feared the Lord, who waited on him expectantly, who had seen with her own eyes that for her people, waiting meant slavery, toil, injustice, and death. And then she saw her. Through the window, down the alley, her daughter Miriam running, breathless, calling to her mother. God had indeed been at work. The pounds of makeup that I put on to record this are now going to slide off my face. So, so don't mind if there's big tear stains. In the paragraph above, we're allowed to trade places with Moses' mother and imagine how alone and abandoned she must have felt, only to find that God had been working things out all along. Before Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, how many people thrown into fiery furnaces were killed? All of them. Before Daniel, how many people thrown into the lion's den were ripped to shreds? All of them. In Egypt, before Moses was born, how many Israelite baby boys were either born into slavery or killed? All of them. Do you see a pattern? God is the architect of the miraculous. Just because something doesn't normally happen does not mean that God is going to let it continue that way. It only takes once for a new pattern to emerge. The Bible says that God will punish those who hate him, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Exodus 26. We know that God is able. The question then becomes, is God willing? He is, my friend. When young David stood before the giant Goliath, David yelled, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." 1 Samuel 17:45. Before we move on to our role in all of this, I would like you to watch 2 videos to see how God uses pain. If you go to mariewhiteauthor.com and go to the Strength for Parents tab, you can click on book links 4 and 5 to watch those. You can pause and do that, but I'll continue reading the chapter. Actually, no, I'm going to pause and blow my nose, and so we'll continue the chapter that we're on in the next video.